Lesson number 7. Get in the zone and stay there. Let me talk to you about the zone. When I speak about the zone, I'm talking about finding the thing that you do well. Marcus Buckingham would say, find your strengths. Find the thing that you are gifted at, the thing that seems to naturally produce well for you and give you a return. And whatever that is, keep doing the thing that is your strength. Don't do the thing that is your weakness. Now, fortunately, my father was very good at this. It was a great strength of my dad. My dad, very quickly, I'm the middle child. My brother is older, my sister is younger. And my father very quickly saw my brother and saw his business, young business mind, loved to work, and had a great passion to make money, even as a kid. In fact, when he was 16, paid cash for his first car and just absolutely just made money and just loved to work. And I was exactly opposite. I was totally worthless. I always ran out of allowance. Never wanted to work. Why would you work when you could play? So I was always with my friends. I just had friends, and life was a party. And so, you know, I used my dad's car. Why would I want to have a car? My dear God, you have to pay for them when it's yours. In fact, I was a senior in college when Dad said, John, don't you think you ought to buy a car? Do I have to? And then I got me a Falcon for $500, and I borrowed the $50 for the down payment from my sister, who also had money. But my dad was very good, very, very good at you know, and he put me in the people. He could tell I was going to be in the people business. He could tell my brother Larry was going to be in the business. And my dad would always say, kids, let's find out what you do well and you do one thing. He said, I've watched people who are successful. He says they can do one thing better than anyone else. And whatever that is, get it and find it and get your... So that was huge for me, and it set me on the right course. But let me just say this. Even when I got in the people business, it took me about 6 or 7 years for me to find my strength zone. I started off in my weak areas. I have a degree in counseling, so I started off counseling. Dear God, I was terrible at counseling. People would come to my office, and I'd sit there and I'd listen to these issues that they had, and on a legal pad, I'd immediately say, well, dear God, this is simple. 1, 2, 3, be healed. You know, get going. And then they wouldn't be healed. And I thought, oh, dear God, what do we do now? They're not getting healed. And they come back, and I'd say, well, did you do the assignment I gave you last time? And I found out they didn't do the assignment last time. I said, well, I don't want to see you. Do you do the assignment last time? And I found out they don't want to do the assignment. They wanted to groan some more and moan some more. And so I'd bring them back in. And I remember the day I told my congregation, I'm not going to do any counseling anymore. They just gave me a standing ovation. They just looked at me and said, God has answered our prayer. This is the most wonderful thing, you know. Whew, thank you, God. Took me a long time to find my strengths, but I found them. In your notes, British poet Samuel Johnson said, almost every man wastes part of his life in attempts to display qualities he does not possess. Boy, that's true with all of us. Haven't we done that, huh? Haven't we done that? Okay. So what am I going to do? Okay. Number 1, ask, what am I doing well? People who reach their potential spend less time asking, what am I doing right, and more time asking, what am I doing well? The first is a moral question. The second is a talent question. You should always strive to do what's right. But doing what's right doesn't tell you anything about your talent. In other words, you can be just a wonderful person doing the right thing, just being a right person, still not doing what you can do well. Number 2, get specific. When we consider our strengths, we tend to think too broadly. Peter Drucker writes, the great mystery isn't that people do things badly, but that they occasionally do a few things well. The only thing that is universal is incompetence. Boy, that's true. Strength is always specific. Well, let me just quickly, because I got another lesson I want to teach in a moment. Let me just quickly tell you just one little story of how I learned to do this. As I began to work on my communication, I realized that was a gift. And when I began to realize it was a gift, at a very young age, I was given opportunities to communicate in forums that most people my age wouldn't get. So I was always with, usually In my late 20s to my late 30s, so 10 years span, I was always with people 20, 25 years older than me on platforms speaking. And they were better, faster, bigger, more experienced. They just had a whole list of things that they could do that I couldn't do because I was still young and I was on the edge and I was learning. But I knew that I had the ability to communicate. And I also realized I had the ability to encourage and move people and influence people, that I had a motivational encouragement gift. I knew that that was a speaking gift that I had. But when I was on stage with these other guys, to be honest with you, they were better than I was. They were quicker. They were faster. They were, again, more experienced. They'd honed their skills much longer. They'd been working a lot longer. And so I was always kind of the kid with the experienced people that I got on the program, but then I had to work very hard to do good because I was competing against better people. And I began to ask myself, what do I have in my ability to motivate people that they don't have? And I studied them closely. I would take copious notes and I would watch their actions and I would go back and I would think and think. And I did that study probably for a year and a half, and I came to the conclusion that they were all motivational speakers, but none of them were good motivational teachers. They had the ability to make people feel good, but they didn't have the ability to teach simple lessons that people could apply, that they could begin to build off of and be self-help for them and personal growth and development for them. And so I all of a sudden began to say, my niche is I'm going to be a motivational teacher. I'm always going to carry an encouraging theme that you can do it in my teaching, but I'm always going to make sure that I undergird that or put that on top of a how-to application. That when they left, and they no longer felt good because they had now forgotten most of the lesson, they had something they could do that would help them succeed. And all of my life, I've been successful in helping people succeed. It's that simple. That's my niche. That's why when I teach this kind of a lesson, it gets into resources for people that will be used by hundreds of thousands of people. That's why there's so much content. Because I know that you want to enjoy the experience of me teaching, and I want to enjoy the experience of teaching you. But I also know that when it's said and done, you have the workbook, and you've got the content. And you can go back and you can see these practical things I've said, and some of them will apply to your life, and you'll say, oh, I could do that. Oh, my goodness, I think I can apply that to myself, or I can teach that to someone else. I can pass this on. And it's in the content. You see, the charisma gets you in the door. The content keeps you in the room. And I found my niche. And once I found my niche, my speaking and my books, out of sight. And you have that same gift in you. Oh, not that gift of motivational teacher. That's not your gift. But I promise you, every one of you have a strength within you that sets you apart, that makes you unique. I encourage you to find it. And by the way, it'll take a while. You just don't say, well, dear God, that's a great mission. I hope to have that done by noon. No. It's worth your time and it's worth your reflection. Because as I have observed most people in life, if I walked up to them and I asked them, what is your niche that sets you apart from everybody else? They can't tell me. When you find it, and you get in that zone, and you stay there, that's what you were meant to be, that's what you were created to become. That's where the return is. Lesson number 8. A leader's first responsibility is to define reality. That's a quote by Max Dupree, by the way. He's the one that taught me that. The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality, and the reason for that is when we think of leaders, we think the first and most important responsibility is to cast vision. But what every great leader knows is before you can take people to where they need to go, you have to be able to assess where you are. That reality is the foundation that you build your vision off of. And if you don't build your vision off of a reality, it's not a vision, it's a nightmare. It'll never happen. So leaders make sure that everybody understands and sees a clear picture. Here. Everybody better see the clear picture before they pursue the next one. So clarity calls for reality. Now, I'm talking about something that is a huge weakness, by the way, in my life. Again, another lesson learned the wrong way, because I am a positive, optimistic, enthusiastic, encouraging person, which means I don't understand or see reality very much. And all you that have that other nature to you, you just kind of look at us and say, "Dear God, there goes Mr. Fluff one more time." I understand that. I can remember in one of my companies, my brother, who's a very good businessman, who always rides shotgun in all my companies because the guy understands how to build businesses. So I always had him beside me to help me in my decision making, because it wasn't my strength. And I can remember in an organization, a company that I had in the early part of 2000, 2001, 2002, we were having some tremendous opportunities to do some things, but I needed to change some people on that staff. And what was hard on me, see, I didn't try to build a business. I never tried to build a business. Honest to God, I never tried to make money. I just tried to help people. And I just started businesses to help people, and I never realized that these things would come back in a different way to me. So I'm not really a business person. And my brother would say, "John, if you're going to go to the next level, I'm going to give you a list of people to fire, and they are your best friends." And I wouldn't do it. And for 3 years, I kept delaying that. Cost me millions of dollars. And finally, I said, "Hey, I've got to get real about where I am and what I've got." And so Margaret and I, we went on a kind of extended trip. And I took with me, and this is in your notes, Jack Welch's book, Straight from the Gut. And in that book, he has 6 rules for successful leadership. 1, control your destiny or someone else will. 2, face reality as it is, not as it was or you wish it were. Be candid with everyone. Don't manage, lead. Change before you have to. If you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. 5 of those 6 issues are about reality. I made my decisions while I was gone, came back, did what I was supposed to do, made the changes I needed to, cried a lot. Had issues that will never go away with some people because they were my friend, and I had to make some hard decisions. I carried that list with me for 5 years, and every day I read it. Because I said, I'm never going to get back into the situation again. I am never going to, again, somehow ignore reality, kind of hoping or thinking or even praying that it would just get better when it's a real issue. In my book, the 17 Laws of Teamwork, in your notes, is the law of the scoreboard. And the law of the scoreboard says a team can make adjustment when it knows where it stands. Wow. That is so true. That's what the scoreboard is for, to help us with reality. If you'll go down a couple paragraphs in your notes. If you are optimistic as I am, and you naturally encourage people as I do, then you need to take extra care to look reality in the eye and keep yourself grounded. Continually cast a realistic eye on the situation. It is often worse than you think. The process, it usually takes longer than you think. And the price, it always costs more than you think. Lesson number 9. To see how the leader is doing,